Welcome back to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV. As always, the voice of the voiceless. It's the big conversation, it's the great debate, and tonight we are asking the question, what lies behind the fantastically disproportionate love of violence on the part of the state that they call Israel, the settler, colonial, apartheid state that they call Israel, they call the Jewish state, even though hundreds of thousands of religious Jews absolutely disavow them and are on our demonstrations with us, and tens, scores of thousands, maybe more, of secular Jews absolutely reject and disavow them also. We're talking about that, but the news is coming in thick and fast. Not only has the bombardment begun again in Gaza with truly horrific child killing. I mean, this is sadistic serial murder. This is sadistic child killing. 4 Palestinian children have been killed in the last 2 hours. 4 were killed, at least 4 were killed on the beach yesterday. I don't know how many others were. 80% of the Palestinians that have been killed in this Israeli operation are civilians, and most of them are women and children. More than 200 Palestinians have been killed, and well over 1,000 Palestinians have been maimed. Thousands of houses and buildings have been destroyed. None of these children was in Hamas. None of these women were firing rockets. It is collective mass murder, collective punishment of the kind made notorious by the Nazis in occupied Europe, not least against their captive Jewish population. And of course, there's this bizarre story of the Malaysian airliner, bizarre upon bizarre. We have still not got any explanation as to what happened to the last Malaysian airliner. In fact, there hasn't even been a report that I have seen in months that they're even still looking for it. The Australian Prime Minister was at sea claiming we were about to fish it out off the coast of Australia 4 months ago. What happened to it? Where's the black box, indestructible recorder? And what's happened now to this Malaysian airliner? Another 300 people flying out of Amsterdam, from which my own wife and family come and regularly fly Amsterdam, Kuala Lumpur on Malaysian Airways. All these families now waiting for the dread news. What happened to that? I heard idiots on the BBC running away with themselves earlier today. It was the rebels in the east of Ukraine that done it, even though the airliner was 10 kilometers in the sky, 30,000 feet plus. How could a rebel have the kind of radar, laser-guided technology in eastern Ukraine to bring down an airliner? Only a state could have brought down this airliner if it was brought down by a missile. And there's only 2 states in the area. One of them is Russia, and the other one is Ukraine, the state that we are supporting as hard and as fast as we can. I'll tell you what I think is much more likely, though I have no more evidence than any of these other commentators who've already reached their conclusion. My suspicion is that both the first and the second Malaysian airliners were brought down by Al-Qaeda acts of terrorism. That's the Al-Qaeda that we're fighting in Iraq, but supporting in Syria. That we're fighting in Mali, but we supported in Afghanistan throughout the 1980s. Well, Amar is in London. Let's hear from him about Israel. Amar, welcome. Amar?
Yes.
You're on the air, brother.
Peace be upon you, brother. Good evening, everybody. Actually, where to start from with Israel? I would start from the idea which many Israelis come up with, such as, we are only defending ourselves. Now, if the Israelis, common sense, they're eating the Palestinians right every day. They're eating the Palestinians right and land and lives and oppression every single day, continuously. Now, once the Palestinians try to defend themselves or try to live and survive, they have to fight for their rights. Now, that's when the Israelis say, okay, well, they're attacking us, so let's bombard them on a big time. So let's just do everything we want, as long as they just fired us 1 or 2 missiles, which is nothing in comparison to what Israel is using, such weapons such as dense area in Gaza. Now, this is the first thing. Secondly, Israel is taking advantage of the Middle East and West. And unfortunately, most of the Arab leaders, the puppets and their sheikhs are diverting the Muslim Ummah from the real enemy, such as Israel. They are finding the other enemy, which is the enemy of Israel. So what the Arabs are doing, basically, they are going targeting Iraq, targeting Syria, try to target Iran, try to target Lebanon, whom are the only countries who stood against Israel. They are targeting Hezbollah, they are targeting Syria, which is the only country stood against Israel amongst the Arabs. Now, to think about it, now ISIS and ISIL, when they fight in Syria, what they do is, once they get injured, they go and get healed in Israeli hospitals. The same people are fighting Hezbollah. Now, once we go after this, we say, Israel partnered with ISIS and ISIL. Okay? Saudi government is against any Saudi going out for a demonstration against Israel. Now, Barack Obama is supporting Israel by calling its crimes as self-defense. Now, to think about the new plan divert the attention, which I said, from Israel towards the Arabs, those who are against Israel. When we see, how many the 3 settlers in Israel whom we're missing, what we see is more than 270 Palestinians have died in this crime. And
well, it's more than 200, and it's more than 1,000 wounded. Amar, I've got to press on. More than 200 dead, more than 1,000 wounded, 1 Israeli dead, and 5 wounded. That's the disproportionate violence that we're talking about here. Let's go to Zimbabwe and hear from Lucy. Lucy, welcome to the show.
Hi, George, how are you?
By the grace of God, I'm good. The better for hearing from you. Go ahead.
Yes. I'd like to comment, where is the US and the UK when everything is happening there in Palestine? These people, the UK and the US, these are parasites. I know that they're not going to benefit. They know that they're going to benefit anything from Palestine. That's why they're not doing anything about this issue. Whenever they know that they're going to benefit, they will have to have responded by then. They should do something. Obama, he has to show something. These are people and children dying each and every minute. What do you have to wait? What do they want the world to do? We have watched everything. And this UK is biased. The BBC has seen all the stuff that the people are doing there. Why can't they just display everything? Just they have to say everything in black and white. I'm so bitter and I'm so angry. I am angry, especially with the UK and the US. Where is the United Nations security? Where is it? Are they being controlled by the UK and the US as if they are the only contributors to this union? Everyone, I think, is contributing to the UN. So some other nations, they have to be involved. They don't have to wait for like the UK and the US, they're the ones that are holding the remote.
I mean, Lucy, very powerfully put. Let me try to answer the central question you raised with an aphorism first used in the 1930s, but just as apposite today. It goes like this. Thank God you cannot bribe or twist the average British journalist. But when you see what unbribed he'll do, you know that there's no reason to. Andreas is in Cyprus. Andreas, what's behind Israel's violence?